a question here. What will happen to those annoying bike lanes? I thought this was a trial, and I rarely see anybody on the 12th Avenue lane. And I think it is. Evan, you're first. What about those annoying bike lanes? Are they staying?
They're not annoying. And they're working. Here's the value proposition. So, going back to that very large diversity in our city. So there are, in the downtown and the Beltline, there are 105 lanes for vehicular traffic. And so the proposition was, the majority of residents that live in the center city and the Beltline do not own cars. And so what they asked us is they said, we would like to bike around more, but we're not feeling safe. Will you, as the city council, provide us with 4 lanes out of 105 lanes so that we can get to the grocery store, get to the restaurant, visit friends? And that was the value proposition. And we said yes as a council. And we said that because we live in a diverse city where there is this huge population who do not own cars, and they deserve to get around in safe ways. And they're working because the cycle track project was the most measured and data-driven project we have ever undertaken in the city of Calgary. And the numbers are adding up. The cycle tracks are working. And what we've actually seen is there's a huge increase in seniors biking, there's a massive increase in women biking, and young people biking. And so the data has played itself out. We need to expand on the network so that we can get more people biking. We need to connect the cycle tracks to the bike lanes and the bike lanes to the pathways, because there's a huge and growing demographic of Calgarians who would like to cycle.
I love riding my bike too, and when my kids were little, we used to ride all over on the bike paths. There's still a lot of places that are not safe. I think we could manage the bike lanes in a much more productive manner. I think we could utilize a lot more of our walkway space without having to sacrifice lanes on busy streets like Northmount Drive or some of the busy streets. And one side could be for pedestrians only, the other side could be a shared space, much like the pathways by our rivers. With that, we could link up all parts of the city at hopefully less cost than affecting all the traffic lanes. I hope to see something like that, because it is great to ride your bike.
I'm not against bikes. I'm not against bike lanes. We are a progressive city that recognizes that we have to have a balanced modal split. So we have to look at our pedestrian realm. We have a pedestrian policy that we're trying to implement. We have a bike policy, we have transit policy, and we've got cars. We're still a car-centric city. It's not going to go away. Even if we get all driverless vehicles, it will certainly change what we do. It will change what we do going forward in terms of storage of vehicles and whether we even have to have garages in our homes. That's coming. It's coming fast, but it's not here yet. So in the meantime, what do we do with the current situation? I believe before we continue to roll out more and more of the cycle track and path system, that we look at the deficiencies in the one we've built, make sure that any gaps in the system are addressed, because they exist. And we also have to look back at, did we put the crosstown connections in the right place? So I question why we didn't look more closely at 4th and 5th Avenue, where more of the new construction occurred, the newer buildings where we have storage for bikes, we have showers and equipment. All the buildings that were built were required to have these features, yet we didn't put the crosstown cycle track in those locations. We put it on 8th Avenue, mixed with the pedestrian realm, and over on 12th. So I would be concerned about how we've delivered the system, not about dismantling it. And I also want to see the cost of operating this system 365 days a year. We live on a cycle network, and when I shovel my walk off, as I'm supposed to by bylaw, and then the equipment comes by and cleans it and puts it back on my sidewalk, it's a challenge. So I think we need to work on delivery.
Yeah, thank you. And again, sometimes with my opponent here, this is that wandering answer that isn't an answer. We hired a company in Stantec that have built these cycle track networks all over the world. They're the best and the brightest. The reason why we chose 8th Avenue is because there was huge demand from hotels for us to do that, to connect in and along. It's a pedestrian mall. This is what they do all over the world. On 12th Avenue, the reason we chose 12th Avenue is that it is the interface between the residential part of the Beltline and the commercial downtown. It is where all of the where the co-op is, the Safeway, and all of our shopping. It's where the library is. There is a very, very specific reason why we put it there. And I know my opponent has called it a disaster. He said it's snarling traffic. But this is exactly where they should be, and we should actually be expanding them along this and connecting them through to the Bow Rivers, through Sinalta. There's huge demand in Sinalta for us to connect that through. Huge demand for us to connect it down through to Elbow Drive and the River Pathway system. This is not a time for us to be canceling this program. As my opponent has said, this is a time for us to expand this.
I'm sorry, but Councillor Woolley mentioned putting it down through to the river. I'm concerned when I hear the cycle track being proposed to come down through 5th Street in Cliff Bungalow, a community that's already been divided by the gerrymandering of the wards into 11 and 8 along 4th Street. Now that community is to be further severed by a proposed cycle track to turn the two-way 5th Street, which helped mend that community back into a one-way with a cycle track. And we're going to hear more about it. We're going to hear more about it at Mission Cliff Bungalow on Monday night. But I'm very concerned when the communities are not being listened to when it comes to proposed infrastructure. Thank you.